Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. In this one we're going to start adding some functionality to be able to shoot our hit scan weapons. In between videos I did a couple of just really small things. I added some text renders out into the world. To do that, all you need to do is go into place actors and you can pull a text render out. You can rotate it however you'd like. You can change the fonts, even though I don't think it'll work because it doesn't have a text material. Yeah. You can align it to the center, change the color, whatever you want to do, and type in whatever you want it to say. So yeah, I put our weapon locker and then ammo pickups. I made it black and size 30, and I gave it a name and put it into a folder. And I also put our ammunition in the correct order and put that into a folder because they didn't call me organization station in high school for nothing. I actually got called that. Moving on though, let's shoot some guns. So first thing that we want to do is in our data folder, right click and go to blueprint and then go to enumeration. We're going to go E fire type. And as I said at the very beginning of like the first video, we have two different types of weapons. The first one is called hit scan, and the other one is a projectile. So if you remember, a hit scan weapon is going to work with a line trace. A line trace being, I don't think I debugged this yet, so it's going to be the same type of thing where it draws an invisible line out into the world, and it's going to be an instantaneous looking for what it hits. So we'll get results like that with the hit scan. A projectile is going to be more similar to if you were to just use the first person template that comes with Unreal. That gun has a little yellow ball that comes out of it, and it's actually a projectile. And the differences between projectiles and hit scan is going to be an instantaneous hit. It's going to be a perfect straight line, whereas a projectile, we can set different speeds to it and have it be impacted by gravity. So our pistol, auto rifle, and shotgun, those are going to be hit scans, and then the sniper rifle, grenade, and rocket are going to be projectiles. So in this video, we're going to start our script to be able to add functionality to the hit scan. I was going to say projectile. So yeah, let's go into our weapons folder and open up our weapon base. This is where all of our script is going to live. All right. The first thing that we want to do here is let's go ahead and create a function, and we'll call it start shooting. What we want to do is we want to add an input to this and call it fire type and make it of type fire type like that. Coming out of here, we want to make a sequence, and just like at other times in the class, we're going to add something out of the then zero, but for the sake of right now, what I want to do is go out of the then one pin, and then we'll add this script later. That's where we're going to be controlling actually decreasing the amount of bullets that we have, and then doing some reloading stuff. But out of fire type, let's switch that on. And plug that into the then one pin like that. Can reroute that node like that. Alrighty, so out of hit scan, what we want to do is we want to call a different type of function. So not a whole lot added to this just yet, but we're gonna have to create a new function. So let's call this calculate calculate line trace. Let's call it that. And then this is going to have 3 different inputs. So let's add 3 inputs here. The first one is going to be a camera component. Second one is going to be a weapon mesh. And the third one is going to be a weapon socket. The camera is going to be of type camera. so just camera component object. There we go. And then this one is going to be a scene component. Scene component object reference. Scene component is like these things. Anything in our component, like any of these components are considered a scene component. And then this one is going to be a name. All right. What we can do here is let's pull out a sequence. So we want to do a couple of different things. And we're going to promote all of these to local variables. Local camera, local weapon mesh, and local weapon socket, not socket, socket. All right, and then let's just do this out of the then 0. And this is a little bit ugly, so let's maybe move all of this upward a little bit and then add some reroute nodes like that maybe. This makes it a little bit, oh, that's tragic. Oh, I gotta switch these two. Oh my goodness. This is just kind of an awkward first part of the script for sure, to set all of these, and Unreal's doing the not giving me the straight lines, which is an awful fate. Okay, but you know what? It gets the job done, y'all. It gets the job done. So out of then 1, let's line trace for objects. Instead of by channel, we're going to do it for objects. Because we want to, so like line, if I were to do line trace by channel, you'll notice that it's missing this object types. So we only want our line trace to interact with a couple of different object types. So with this line trace by channel, it's just, we don't have that option, essentially. In simplified terms, that's why we're using that one. All right. So what we want to do, similar to how we did this in the character, if you remember, we took the camera component, got its location, and did some math here. We want to do something similar. So let's grab our local camera component, which, if you remember, is an input. So if I were to go here and I were to pull this out and say calculate line trace, it's not going to be asking for that data because it's inputs. Okay. So local camera, we're going to get the world transform, and we want to split this struct pin so that we can get a rotation, a location, and a scale. We're not going to use the scale, but we will use the rotation and the location. So the location of our camera is going to be our start point. So that's nice and easy there. But we're going to do several different things off of this endpoint. So let's actually start with the rotation, and we'll get the forward vector. So the rotation of our camera straight out from that point is what we're getting. And then we're going to multiply this vector times a float. I believe it is a float. Yes. Okay, so this is actually how far out into the world our line trace is going to go. So that one is 200. So let's make this something pretty big, like 10,000. Distance line trace travels. And if you want, okay, so like let's say you want to give a certain weapon more range than a different one. All you have to do is promote this to a variable, and then the line trace won't go as far. So if you have like a shotgun and it's hitting something from like, you know, across the map or something ridiculous, you can do that. But for simplicity's sake right now, let's just keep it like that. And we're gonna vector plus float. Oh, float is not compatible with, we might need vector plus vector. Vector plus vector. Yeah, okay. Okay, mathematics. So yeah, this goes in here and then that goes in there. So what we're doing is we're taking the location of our camera as a start point, and then we're adding 10,000 to that point. Now, normally, we would just add that into the endpoint, and we'd be done, and life would be good. But we like to make things more complicated because, if you remember, we have this bullet spread thing going on here. So we don't want our line traces to be absolutely perfectly straight if we're not aiming down the sights. So how do we accomplish that effect? Well, let's do that right now, okay? So out of vector, let's break said vector. All right. And then what we're gonna do is let's grab our bullet spread, whatever that is set as default 350. And then let's multiply that by another float, and let's multiply that by -1. Okay, and then what we want to do out of here is we'll get a random float within a range. So this node is going to be the minimum, and then this node is going to be the maximum. So our bullet spread is 350. All right. The minimum value that this randomization can pump out is -350, and the maximum it can be is 350. So awkwardly enough, though, we need to get this for the X, the Y, and the Z. So we need to do this 2 other times. So we can plug one in for the X, one for the Y, and one for the Z. So let's plug in the value of this into all of the minimums, and the value of this into all of the maximums, which, yes, this is an abomination looking thing, but it's the best we can do. Okay. Out of here, let's add float plus float, and we want to do that for X, Y, and Z. So I want to make sure that we're randomizing this in all the locations, X, Y, and Z. And then the return values will go into the bottom of that. All right, this can get very ugly very fast. I'm trying to like tame all these nodes here. Okay, and then out of here, we're gonna make this a vector because we broke it. Now we gotta make it back into a vector again. All these float values into a vector again. And then last but not least, we need to actually check, okay, we only want to do this if we're not aiming, right? We only want this bullet spread to be randomly firing off. Like if we are aiming, we want it to be this perfect line, right? So I guess what we need to do is out of event begin play, we need to get a reference to our player because I don't think we have one yet. So let's get the player character, cast to BP player, promote to variable, and we'll call it player. I won't make it look beautiful just to save some time. I'll do that in between videos. Oh yeah, it's not liking me because of this. Okay, so out of the return value of this, let's get a select node like this. And actually, that didn't pull up the way I wanted to. Let's try to do it this way. Player, let's get is aiming. And then let's make a select out of that. Haha, there we go. That's what we want. So now it's grabbing the true and false. So if is aiming is true, then we just want to grab that. We just want to grab the perfect line, the rotation of our cameras, forward vector, plus 10,000 units out into the world. Just want that to be perfect. But if we're not aiming, we want to do this little bullet spread math. So we want to plug that into the false, and then the return value of that's going to be our endpoint. Isn't that complex? Not really. Well, yeah, I don't know, kind of, sort of. Okay, out of here, let's make an array because we want to have multiple objects to interact with. The two that we want to interact with are world static and world dynamic. So these are the things that our line trace is going to intersect. So if you go out into the world and you look at this and, well, if you were to go into like the collision settings of something, so maybe if I just grab this out, this probably has some by default. So if I were to take this and collision presets, and I would just say this is where's you see like world dynamic there? Oh, I might need to, where is it? Oh, there we go. This is what I'm looking for. World dynamic, world static. So there's different things in the world that would be considered dynamic and static. I probably didn't even need to explain that. But these are the object types we want our line to intersect with. But then we also want to ignore some actors. So let's get the player character. And I don't think this will plug in straight away. Okay, it just made an array. So we can add more things to this that we want this to ignore. All right. Out of this out hit, we want to, can we just do this? No, we can't. Okay. So let's add another pin. Let's add a return node out of this. And then let's make an output and make this a hit result. And we'll call it hit result. And then plug that in like that. All right. That is the ugliest thing I've ever seen in my life. All right, so now we have our calculate line trace thing here. So really quickly, let's just re-go over this. So we're setting, maybe we didn't even need to do the weapon mesh and the socket, set those as variables because we didn't actually use them. I thought we would. Potentially, we only used the camera. I don't know, whatever. It's really not that big of a deal to have them or not have them. It is what it is. So when we draw this line trace, we're getting the position of a camera. We have not specified what that camera is just yet. We're getting its location and setting that as our start point. And then what we're doing is we are taking the rotation of the camera, the forward vector from that camera, plus 10,000, adding that together. And then if we are aiming our weapon, we'll return that as the endpoint. If we're not aiming, then we have broken that vector up into X, Y, and Z. We've randomized that number in between -350 and 350 or whatever number that we set as this bullet spread here. Then we're adding those two values together back up, making that into a vector again because we broke it and made it into floats, and then making that the endpoint. And we want our line trace to interact with world static and world dynamic objects and ignore our player. We don't want it to interact with our player. All right, so now we have that function sitting out and about like that. And this part will be pretty easy. So let's grab the player and let's grab the camera that's on the player. And that's gonna be our camera. So we grab this, the camera. For the weapon mesh, well, let's just grab the weapon mesh from our base. That is nothing, but it's set as other things in the children. And then the weapon socket. So if I show you this, if we go to the weapons and a skeletal mesh, we want this. It's called muzzle flash. This is what we're grabbing. They're all called muzzle flash. All right, so I don't need to do this, but I'm gonna promote it to a variable. And we'll call it weapon socket. And it's a name variable. And why is it not letting me? Oh, because it's up here. Okay. I was like, what? We'll set that to be muzzle flash. I don't think we'll ever need to change that, but just in case you had a different weapon that you were to add to this project later on, you can now change that by a variable. So yeah, that's pretty cool. Okay, and then we're gonna do different things. It's returning whatever this hits. So you can break it just to show you. We can do all these different things with the hit result, the hit of the line. All right, and we're returning that value so that we can do cool things with that afterwards, which is exactly what we're gonna do. So we wanna always do the cool things. All right, so all that's set up, looking pretty good so far. All right, so there are a few different things that we're gonna add to all these scripts, but just to show you that this is working, let's go ahead and just set it up as sort of a debugging thing really quickly. So let's go into our settings, project settings, and input. Let's create a new action mapping and call it shoot. Should we call it shoot or should we call it fire? These are I'm gonna call it fire. I feel like shoot is just like, man, shoot. Left mouse button. That's what we want to shoot. That's normally how it goes. All right. So in our event graph, let's go ahead and create an event, and we'll call this one fire. How's that? So we're gonna add things to this to make sure that we like actually have ammo and a whole bunch of other things like that. Make sure that we're not like we actually can shoot our weapon. You know, we can do that actually right now because we created that variable, but it'll always be true, right? Oh, it's not. So let's just set that to be true for now, so we see that this works. Okay, then let's get the current weapon. All right, and then we want to get the fire type. What did we name that? Oh, did we not actually set that as a... Hold on a second. Or wait. Weapon type. Wait, start shooting is fire type of type, fire type. Oh, sheesh. Okay. We put it in the info. We didn't actually make it a variable. It's awkward. Okay. So let's make that fire type. Okay, so now it has an actual variable of type fire type of hit scan or projectile. And that's important because we need to make sure that we set that in all of our children eventually too, so that it knows if it's a hit scan weapon or a projectile type weapon. All right, so now let's get the fire type. Look at that. So nice to us now. And we want to run start shooting. The target is going to be the current weapon. And it's going to run out of the true branch, and it's kind of jerry-rigged together right now, admittedly. But it should work. The last thing we need to do is go to action mappings, and let's search for fire, the action event. And then let's just go run fire like that. So hopefully, oh my gosh, I've done it. Okay, we want to make sure that we have this persistent. All right, and we probably want to check that we actually like have a weapon. So before we do this, let's go ahead and get the loadout, because that's what caused those errors. Man, it's getting late. I can't talk. Okay, pressed has weapon fire, and we can see those lines, right? Because it was set to be persistent. Okay, excellent. So no lines, no errors. Pretty good. So look at that. So we're shooting right now, and you can see those lines going out. Boom, 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 boom. And them go way out there. And if it's, you can see it's hitting stuff because it has the little line. And then these ones that I'm shooting out don't do anything. So obviously the ammo isn't going down. We don't have any recoil. Whole bunch of stuff that we need to add, but there we go. I mean, our gun is shooting. We are drawing these line traces out into the world, which is exactly what we want to do. It is checking. You can see the distance there. If I just draw one like that, you can actually see. So from there to like there, that's how far it goes. So like if you want to change that, if you don't want the shotgun to have that much range, go ahead and set that 10,000 to be a variable, and then you can change that in all the children. So yeah, I got a crazy like light show going on over here. But yeah, that looks kind of cool. See, like, oh, you can see how it actually, I'm going to jump off the map. You can see how it actually keeps going through the green. So it still goes through even though it hits something. Look how cool that looks. So yeah, all of that works. Yeah, that's everything. That's everything for this video. So we're going to keep adding stuff to this and making it more robust. We want to add the sounds and the effects and be able to reload and make sure that our ammo count actually goes down. And then also make the specific weapons function how they do. Make that assault rifle automatic and the shotgun a spread and all that stuff. But this is the baseline for what all of our projectile weapons are going to do, which is shoot out. And so now we have guns shooting, shooting with the air quotes. So that will be pretty cool. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one.